This is a pretty different way to make beats on the MPC One, and one that is actually really fun and I recommend you try. Now, it comes in the form of like a pretty standard vaporwave meets trap beat for me, but I promise that the workflow is interesting. But first, let's hear the beat itself. Quick bit of background for those of you unfamiliar with vaporwave and subsequently vapor trap. Vaporwave emerged when people started taking old like 80s and 90s music and slowing it way down to create this kind of hypnagogic feel, and it has since evolved quite a bit into its own little genre. It's still fairly weird and almost a little bit tongue-in-cheek at times. And then vapor trap is basically just combining that with trap beats. So the reason I bring that up is this started from a completely different beat. And I'm going to show you that and then show how we got to kind of our final destination. So I started off with this little 100 BPM thing. And I started off with basically something vaporwave-esque, but just made from scratch and a little more polished than you might normally expect vaporwave to be. Like, it's somewhere between vaporwave and synthwave. So for this, a bunch of these sounds are from my $5 sample pack, link in the description, helps keep my channels going. But we've got this snare tuned way down, punchy kick, hi-hat, and this extra hi-hat element with spring reverb. Here are my settings in case you are interested. Big reverby clap, just fairly basic drums. A key group program sampled from my mini log. I'm going to eventually add this to my $5 key group pack, which is also available in the description. This is not in there yet, but I'm sure it will be at some point. And then this is also multi-sampled from my mini log. And you can hear I've gone in and added a bit of portamento. And if I recall correctly, this is just tube synth on the default patch. And I was like, that's kind of fun. It's cheesy, but very much intentionally. And then this bass from Hype. So I had this and went, this definitely feels fairly vaporwave-esque, but I could take it farther, and wouldn't it be fun to just like basically sample my own beat and turn it into vapor trap? One of the things with vaporwave is that it often doesn't really care about copyright, but if you made your own sample source, then that doesn't really apply. So here's what I did, and this took a few iterations. I went to save and audio mixdown. I just turned my audio tail to 0 and then just exported this into the exports folder on my SD card. A couple things to keep in mind though. I had some issues getting the time stretching that I will show you in a second to sound clean with my trap drums. So what I ended up doing is exporting 5 separate files. So I exported a version of this with everything running except for that main lead melody. So I exported a run with that. I exported a run with the lead. And then did the same with the drums muted. And the same. I should also note that I ended up, for the no drums passes, taking the bass up an octave because I figured that might fit better, and I turned out to be right on that. The other thing that I did is exported just that snare because reasons that I'll show you in a second. So now, here's the trap version. So I've got my 4 versions of the exports loaded in here. And I loaded one in, and once I got my pitch shifting and time stretching the way I wanted it, and for that matter, my processing, once I got all that the way I wanted it, I copied that pad and then just swapped out the sound. So different sounds, but exact same processing. So this is being pitched down by 5 semitones, which gives it very much a vaporwave feel, and I'm slowing it down using time stretching from 100 BPM to 80 BPM. And my first attempt at this was just using this one right here. But you can hear the time stretching choke just a little bit, where it tries to like lock it to the grid, but everything ends up sounding a little sloppy. So for instance, my snare hits would end up like a little off relative to this sharp trap snare. So that's why I ended up exporting a no drums version just to like sidestep that issue entirely. But on the other hand, I really liked the way that that pitched down snare sounded on top of this snare. So I just exported that snare and once again applied the same processing to it. So I could basically fake layering the slowed down, pitched down snare, but have it be guaranteed on the grid at all times. And that sounded a lot better. And so for our intro, we just play our pitched down samples with no accompaniment, just straight up those by themselves. And you will notice that I have sent these to the same mute group, just as a little contingency. And in addition to all the pitch and time stretching stuff, I am sending all of these to the Ducker. I've got a limiter just to catch peaks, and I am high passing these to varying degrees. So we've got our sample, and fairly aggressive side chaining is applied, and now I can dive into our trap drums. So let me go and mute this for now. So there's quite a bit going on here. 2 separate hi-hats, one of them for hi-hat rolls, and then one of them just, straight ahead. This kick, I don't remember where I got it from, but I do know that I always apply a little bit of soft clipping. This snare, also with a little bit of soft clipping, is from my $5 sample pack, as are these hi-hats. Also from my $5 sample pack, this hi-hat, and this reverby clap sampled from my Syntact. Wait for the clap. And let me mute all of these real quick, because I've also got in the second bank a bunch of little bits of percussion that I'm just running through, and I'm also playing this just for on the floor. And you will notice these are panned around a little bit. You can see that here, which is fun. So they kind of like slide back and forth. And there's that little cross-stick sample as well. Just as much percussion as I could get. And then we bring in our 808. This is just an 808 sample brought into a key group. Lots of octave jumps. And in this case, this is just a preset that I made for myself where I took the sample and then added a diode clip and a little bit of tube drive. That helps it cut through pretty nicely. And then for our B section, we just have Basically the exact same thing, but with the other sample playing. The one with the main lead. And then I've got the XY on here with tape stop and a few different effects for the live performance version, which is just fun. If you'd like to see some more MPC One beat making, I've got you covered with these videos up over here, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching.